As Jason Statham once said, it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. The Seoul World Martial Arts Expo wasn't just a normal event. It was big. It was loud. It was shiny and bright like a giant party for people who love to fight, kick, and spin. Long colorful flags from every dojo in the world waved like battle flags. Drones with cameras flew above, looking like birds waiting to see something fall. In the center of a huge hall was a big, clean mat. Lights from above made it shine like a movie set. Around it were hundreds of people, kids with belts, famous teachers, YouTubers, and old masters. Everyone came to see something amazing. And standing right in the middle of it all was a man named Rafe Q. He didn't need anyone to say who he was. Everybody already knew. Rafe was a 5-time world champion. He was super fast. He could kick like lightning. He was also famous on the internet. People loved him for the way he talked and fought. His uniform, called a dobok, was bright white, so clean, it looked like it had never been touched by sweat or dirt. His smile was sharp and shiny. It looked nice, but also a little mean. He picked up the microphone. There's a difference between fighting and pretending, he said, walking around like a comedian getting ready to make jokes. Some of you are here to cheer for real warriors. Others? You're clapping for actors who just pretend to fight. The crowd didn't know how to react. Some people giggled. Others looked at each other, not sure if it was funny or serious. Then Rafe said, "Let's talk about Jiro Morgan." He said the name softly, almost like he was going to say something kind. But then his voice turned cold. Jiro Morgan, Rafe said, was the guy who taught half of Hollywood how to fall without getting hurt. He taught Jason Statham how to punch in a way that looked real, but never hurt anyone. People gasped. Some laughed nervously. He taught movie punches, Rafe went on. Not real punches. He was a coach for actors. A magician with moves. Not a fighter. Rafe was enjoying himself. He looked like he loved every word he said. And yet, he said, we act like he was some war hero. Like he fought real battles. But he didn't. Then Rafe looked at the front row. Sitting there was a man in a leather jacket. He had his hands folded together, resting on his knees. He looked calm. He didn't blink. He didn't frown. He just sat still. It was Jason Statham. Rafe stared at him, hoping to get a reaction. Nothing. Rafe smiled bigger. He thought he was winning. This man, Rafe said, nodding at Statham, was trained by Jiro Morgan. The same guy who made him look cool in movies like Rocky and Rambo. But movies don't fight back. Titles don't punch. The crowd laughed a little harder now. But not everyone. Some older martial artists looked uncomfortable. A judo teacher closed his eyes like he didn't want to watch. But people kept raising their phones, recording everything. And what did Statham do with all that training? Rafe asked, laughing. He made slow-motion videos and speeches about not giving up. That's not a fighter. That's an actor. Statham still didn't move. But something changed in the air. It was small. A quiet shift. Like a tiny crack in the ground before an earthquake. No one noticed the green cloth wrapped around Statham's wrists. It looked old, worn, and real. Not like something from a movie. But Rafe didn't care. He kept smiling. He could smell victory. Maybe it's time, Rafe said loudly, to remind these actors that the mat doesn't care how many sequels you've been in. The crowd didn't cheer this time. They were quiet. But Rafe kept going. He was on a roll. Let's be real, Rafe said, walking across the stage. Jason Statham was never a fighter. He was a symbol. A poster. A jawline reading someone else's lines. He looked at the front row again, to make sure Statham was hearing every word. He played the underdog so well, Rafe said, we all forgot that he never had to bleed for real. Then the big screen behind Rafe lit up. It showed a scene from one of Statham's old movies. The clip played in slow motion. A punch missed by half a second, but the other actor still fell down like it hit him. People laughed again. Rafe paused the video. That's the punch that inspired a generation, he asked. Maybe someone should have checked the frame rate. Someone in the crowd whistled. A young woman in the fourth row whispered into her phone, he's roasting him. But not everyone laughed. A Korean master in the third row crossed his arms. A Brazilian kickboxing coach looked at the ground. A young boy in a white belt turned to his dad and asked, "Why doesn't he say anything?" His dad shook his head slowly. "Because the quiet ones don't talk," he said. "They remember." Still, Statham didn't move. But something inside him did. Not anger. Not pride. Something older. Inside, he remembered. He remembered real gyms that smelled like sweat and blood. He remembered coaches saying, "You've got heart, but heart doesn't hit." He remembered getting punched and getting up, not for a camera, but because no one else was going to help him. The laughter around him didn't stop, but it started to feel far away. Like wind outside a window. Rafe kept talking, but his voice was starting to sound small. Like it was bouncing off something solid and silent. Statham didn't move. But something in the room was shifting. A line was being drawn. And it wasn't him who had to cross it. The lights dimmed just a little, not on purpose, just like the room was holding its breath. Rafe stood tall in the middle of the stage. His voice dropped. It was softer now, but sharper. Like a knife on skin. "You see," he said, "Jiro Morgan didn't teach real fighting. He taught choreography. And Statham? He just pretended to be a soldier. He didn't earn those scars. He borrowed them." Some people shifted in their seats. The laughing slowed. A few people clapped out of habit, not because they agreed. The air was dry now, like right before a storm. But Rafe didn't care. He was hungry. He wanted more. He walked a little closer to the mat. To the people sitting near the front. The old legends. "Let's stop pretending," Rafe said, his voice now like a quiet drum. He looked straight at Statham. "There's a man sitting here who made millions throwing fake punches, wearing fake medals, and telling stories of pain that he never lived." The room went silent. Rafe kept staring at him. "And we worship him," he said, "because he looks like he's been through something." Rafe paused. "But I have," he said. 5 countries. 7 titles. No stuntman. No script. Just me, the mat, and the fight." People in the crowd looked around. Phones were rising again. Something big was happening. Rafe pointed at Statham. "So I'll say it clearly," he said. "If Jiro Morgan meant anything to you, then stand up. Walk to the mat. Show us you're not just a ghost of a man who was never real." People gasped. It was like someone had thrown a rock into a quiet pond. One of the judges looked down and acted like he didn't exist. The host of the show stopped reading his notes. A young girl whispered to her friend, "He just called out Statham on live TV." Statham didn't move. Not at first. He just blinked. Slowly. Like an old robot waking up after a long nap. His hands were still resting on his knees. His fingers stayed together. But then, his head lifted. Not quickly. Not with anger. And not to fight. But like someone who had seen this moment coming for a long, long time. The crowd started to get quiet. But Statham didn't look scared. He looked tired, like someone who had seen many bad things before and knew something else bad was about to happen. His eyes didn't shine or glow. They just looked strong, like ocean waves slowly rising. Rafe didn't feel scared yet. He still believed the cameras were watching him. He still thought he was the hero. Then, Statham stood up. He didn't make any big sound. He didn't say anything. Just the soft noise of his old leather jacket rubbing against his clothes. He stood up slowly, like a big truth that couldn't sit anymore. The people in the crowd felt it like a wave moving through them. Nobody clapped. Nobody shouted. Everyone just took a deep breath together. People began lowering their phones. They didn't stop recording, but they felt it wasn't right to hold their phones up anymore. Something special was happening. For the first time, Rafe stopped talking. Statham walked forward. He didn't rush. He didn't yell. He wasn't mad. He just moved with calm steps, like each step had a story to tell. Everyone in the hall watched him with big eyes, very quiet. Rafe stood still. His proud smile started to go away. He didn't think Statham would really stand up. Not like this. He thought Statham would be loud or angry or do something big and silly. But Statham didn't do any of that. Statham walked to the edge of the mat. He stopped just for a second. His old leather jacket caught the lights, showing the lines on his face. He didn't just look old, he looked strong and wise. He took off his jacket slowly and placed it gently beside the mat. Underneath was a plain black shirt. His shoulders looked strong, but not because of muscles. They carried something else, stories nobody could see. Around his wrist was a green scarf. It was old and torn, like it had been through battles no one else knew about. He stepped onto the mat. His feet touched the floor gently, like it was a place he knew well. The crowd stayed very quiet. No one knew if this was a real fight or just for show. Rafe looked okay again. He smiled to hide how he felt. But his smile wasn't real anymore. He walked too fast toward Statham. His arms moved like a show. His jaw stuck out like he wanted to seem tough. But Statham didn't talk. He just stood there. He didn't need to say anything. His quietness filled the room like something heavy and strong. Rafe stopped again. The quiet made him nervous. It felt like there was less air in the room. In the second row, a young boy in a white belt watched everything. His eyes were big with wonder. Beside him, his dad leaned down and whispered, "Watch closely. This is what happens when the cameras stop. This is the real thing." An old Muay Thai coach, who was always calm, now sat up straight. His eyes watched Statham's body like it was an old book with secret lessons. Everyone felt it. Statham's quietness was like a strong voice without sound. Rafe moved closer. He couldn't wait anymore. "You don't scare me," he said. "You're just an actor trying to be a fighter." Statham didn't answer. He just looked past Rafe, through all his pride and pretending, like he could see the emptiness inside. Rafe felt uncomfortable. His voice got louder. "Say something." Then Statham moved just a little. His chin lifted. His eyes were dark and calm. "You already said everything," he said softly. "You talk a lot. But you didn't say anything new." His voice wasn't loud, but it felt strong, like metal cutting through soft cloth. Rafe stepped back a little. He didn't know why those quiet words made him feel scared. Statham kept talking, still soft. "You wanted me here. I'm here. But this is not a movie. And I'm not reading your lines." He moved into a ready stance. Not angry. Not showing off. Just ready. Rafe finally felt something real. He wasn't fighting an actor. He was facing something stronger and older. And all the noise Rafe had made started to feel small. Only the quiet was left now. Rafe moved first. He had to. He needed to break that scary silence. He kicked fast, right at Statham's stomach. The crowd gasped. But Statham didn't panic. He didn't step back. He just brought his arm across and stopped the kick easily. Rafe pulled away, confused. Why didn't Statham fall? The people in the seats whispered. Was this luck or strength? Rafe moved again, fast punches, one after the other. They were flashy, meant to show off. Statham moved only a little. He blocked and turned, using small movements that worked perfectly. He gave a little space, letting Rafe wear himself out with his own anger. Rafe's attacks got bigger and wilder. He tried too hard. Each hit showed how mad he was. Statham stayed calm. His breathing was slow. His eyes never left Rafe. He didn't waste any moves. He didn't try to look cool. He just fought smart and quiet. The crowd felt the difference. Rafe was loud and wild. Statham was peaceful and strong. But Rafe didn't understand. He thought he was winning. He dropped low, then spun around, sending a big kick toward Statham's face. It hit. It cut a small line under Statham's eye. Blood trickled down his face. The crowd gasped again. The cameras zoomed in. Rafe stepped back with a smile. He raised his hands. He thought he had won. But no one clapped. Statham didn't touch the cut. He didn't act hurt. He just took a breath. In his mind, he saw old memories, mud, pain, friends who had fallen, hard days that weren't part of any movie. This pain was real, but it wasn't new. He had felt worse before. A small smile touched his face. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that comes when you remember something important. Did you feel that? Rafe asked loudly. That's real pain, not makeup. He looked at the crowd, waiting for cheers. But it stayed quiet. Statham looked up at him. His eyes were calm. "That pain," he said quietly, "is old. You're just waking it up." The words weren't loud, but they were heavy. The crowd took another deep breath. Everyone could tell something had changed. Rafe paused. He looked unsure again, but he shook it off. He clenched his fists, ready to keep fighting. Statham moved just a little. Most people didn't notice. But the old Muay Thai coach leaned forward and whispered to his student, "Watch. He hasn't lost control. He's getting ready." Statham stood still on the mat. The blood on his face started to dry. His face was calm. He wasn't scared. He wasn't angry. Rafe's smile started to fade again. He could feel something slipping away. Statham didn't move much, but it felt like the room was filled with his energy. Rafe felt like he had started something he couldn't stop. He jumped forward again, trying to look strong. He punched twice, then spun into a big kick toward Statham's side. The punches landed. The kick hit Statham's ribs. The crowd gasped. Statham bent a little under the kick. Rafe stepped back, grinning. He thought Statham would fall or attack wildly. But Statham didn't do either. He stood up straight again. He let out a breath. His eyes were calm, locked on Rafe. For a moment, his eyes looked far away, thinking about the past. He remembered hurt hands, sore bodies, quiet fights in small gyms with no fans, no trophies. Those were the real fights. Rafe's attacks didn't make him mad. They made him remember. Rafe thought Statham was weak because he was quiet. But Statham was just waiting. Rafe moved in again, punching and kicking fast. But this time, Statham didn't just block. He did something more. He shifted his weight onto one foot. Then he turned fast to the side. Rafe threw another big high kick, fast and strong. But he went too far forward and couldn't stop in time. His feet weren't steady. For just a tiny moment, he was off balance. Salone saw this small chance and acted fast. He didn't do anything fancy. He just moved quickly and hit low with his leg. His strong leg hit Rafe's front leg hard, like a tree falling. Crack. It sounded loud, like wood breaking. The sound was real and scary. Even the people watching stopped whispering. Rafe tripped. His eyes opened wide. He felt pain and was surprised. He tried to stand up straight again, but now he was moving unsure, not like before. Salone didn't smile. He didn't look proud or angry. He just watched quietly, like he had a job to do. Rafe was upset and wanted to make up for his mistake. He rushed forward, trying to fight harder. But Salone knew he would do that. He moved smoothly and quickly, going close to Rafe. Then he punched Rafe in the side with a short, strong hook. It wasn't fast or showy, but it hurt a lot. Rafe gasped. He couldn't breathe right. His knees bent, and he almost fell. His eyes looked shocked and full of pain. The people watching were very quiet now. This wasn't fun fighting anymore. It felt real and serious. Even the people with the cameras didn't know where to point them. Rafe took a step back. He was breathing hard, and his proud face looked broken. Now he looked scared. But Salone didn't follow him or brag. He just stood still and moved his foot a little to be ready. He was calm and waiting. Then something happened. A small cut opened on Rafe, and an old memory woke up in someone watching. An old Muay Thai coach in the crowd leaned down to talk to his young student. He spoke very softly, almost a whisper. "He's not fighting to win," the coach said. "He's fixing something." The student's eyes grew big. He looked at Salone and saw it now. Salone wasn't just fighting. He was showing something with every move, like he was telling a story without words. Salone stood still, like a big mountain. He was ready for whatever came next. Not because he wanted to show off, but because some truths can only be shown by actions, not talking. Rafe understood now. He felt it like cold water down his back. Salone didn't lose control. He was slowly, calmly taking it back. Rafe was breathing hard. His face looked wild and mad. His careful moves didn't feel good enough anymore. Everything he practiced felt weak now. Salone was just too calm. Rafe got mad and jumped forward again. This time he didn't think. He just wanted to hit. He forgot his plan. He was just angry. He spun fast and kicked high. It looked fast, but it was wild and messy. Salone watched it happen. He didn't panic. He bent down smoothly, letting Rafe's kick go over his head. It didn't hit anything. Rafe lost balance again and stumbled forward. He was open for a moment. That was what Salone wanted. He moved quickly. No wasted steps. He grabbed Rafe's leg with one arm, holding it tight. Rafe was off balance now. Then Salone turned his hips and twisted hard. Wham! Rafe fell to the ground hard. The noise filled the big room. Rafe lay there for a second, shocked. He felt pain and shame. His pride was hurt. His belief in himself was shaking like paper in the wind. But Salone didn't attack again. He stepped back, letting Rafe have space. He didn't want to embarrass him. He wanted Rafe to understand something. Rafe slowly got up. His arms and legs were shaking. His eyes looked confused and angry. He felt so embarrassed. It was heavy like a big rock on his chest. There was no cheering. The crowd was silent. He used to get lots of claps, but not now. Salone didn't smile or look proud. He didn't act like he won. He just stood there, like a strong tree in a storm. That said everything. Rafe rushed again, trying to change the story. He threw lots of punches and kicks, fast and wild. But they were messy. He wasn't thinking clearly. Salone didn't get scared. He stayed calm. He blocked or pushed the hits away easily. He didn't waste energy. He looked peaceful. Then he saw a chance. Salone moved fast. He stepped close. Rafe threw a long punch, but missed. Salone grabbed Rafe's wrists and twisted quickly. Rafe tripped again. Salone used his body to push Rafe down hard, but with control. Not angry, just firm. Rafe hit the floor even harder this time. Pain flashed in his body. Salone looked at him, not with victory, but like a teacher. Then Salone leaned a little closer and said something soft but strong. "Jiro taught me how to fall, and how to get up without applause." That sentence hit Rafe harder than any punch. He stayed down for a moment. He couldn't breathe right. His chest was tight. Inside, he felt pain and understanding at the same time. The crowd was frozen. No one moved. They were seeing something real, something you don't see often. No lights or loud music. Just the truth. Rafe slowly got up on one knee. His head was down. He wasn't proud now. He understood something important. Salone stepped back again, giving him room. No teasing. No showing off. The arena felt smaller. The bright lights didn't seem so bright anymore. Everyone knew something had changed. Rafe's pride had been torn apart. He was seeing clearly now. He felt something strong and quiet, something deep inside. A new kind of strength. Not from being famous, but from learning something real. Rafe stood up again. This time it was slow. He was in pain. His breathing was short. His eyes didn't look proud anymore. They looked desperate. Salone stood still. He was calm. He didn't move much, but that was his power. Salone wasn't just fighting Rafe. He was fighting the idea that fame was more important than hard work. That looking good was better than being real. Rafe didn't think now. He just rushed again, fast and wild. He threw punches and kicks like a storm. He wanted to feel strong again. He wanted to take back the story. But he was losing control. Salone was ready. His eyes followed every move. He saw it all clearly. He waited. Rafe tried to punch someone in the face. But Salone moved just a little. The punch missed. Another wild kick came. Salone turned his body and let it go by. Then Salone moved. He stepped close again. Rafe spun to kick. Salone caught Rafe's leg, holding it tight. For one short second, they looked at each other. Rafe's eyes were full of panic. Salone's eyes were quiet, calm. Then Salone twisted his body and swept Rafe's other leg. Rafe flew in the air, then hit the floor hard. The noise echoed again in the quiet arena. It was loud and sharp. Rafe stayed on the floor, eyes wide. He couldn't believe this was happening. It wasn't a show. It was real. He got up slowly. His body hurt all over. Salone didn't move forward. He waited, giving Rafe space. But Rafe's pride was still strong. He growled and jumped again. He threw more wild punches, fast and angry. Salone didn't panic. He moved forward gently, not scared. He grabbed Rafe's flying arm and twisted it carefully. Rafe couldn't move. Then Salone gave one last strike. He lifted his elbow and hit Rafe under the chin. It wasn't hard out of anger. It was just clean and perfect. Rafe's knees dropped. His eyes closed for a second. He fell to the mat, arms and legs loose. He was done. Statham stood still. A man was lying on the ground in front of him. The man had lost. Statham's chest moved slowly as he breathed. He wasn't happy. He wasn't excited. He didn't smile. He just stood there, very calm, as if he knew something important had happened. He didn't raise his hands. He didn't cheer. He just looked at the man on the ground. He knew this had to happen. It was not for fame. It was not to win. It was something deeper. A truth that had to be told, not with words, but with actions. Statham had a green scarf around his wrist. It was old now, and the ends were torn. The scarf moved gently as he breathed. People in the crowd slowly lowered their phones. They had been taking pictures and videos, but now their hands were still. No one wanted to move. Everyone was watching quietly. Rafe, the man who had lost, started to wake up. His eyes opened slowly. His face showed pain, not just from the fight, but from something else. His pride was gone. He didn't feel strong anymore. He felt small and unsure. Statham looked at him and spoke softly. His voice was quiet but strong. "Jiro taught me that too," Statham said. His words were gentle, but they felt very big. Rafe felt the words hit him like a wave. They hurt more than a punch. The arena was quiet. No one shouted. No one clapped. Everyone understood they had seen something special. This was not just a fight. It was something more. They had seen a man's pride fall. They had seen the truth stand up. Rafe had believed something that wasn't real. Now that belief is gone. His ego had been broken. And Statham hadn't even shouted. He had just stood there calmly. Statham took a few steps back. He gave Rafe space to get up. He didn't say anything mean. He didn't laugh. He just stood quietly. And in that small space between them, something big had changed. Statham had not just won the fight. He had changed Rafe in a quiet way. The silence after the fight was louder than the punches during the match. People didn't cheer. They didn't clap. They just stood there, thinking. Statham walked off the mat. He picked up his old leather jacket and slowly put it on. No one said a word. The crowd watched him in silence. Statham's face didn't show any pride. He looked tired, but strong. He had done what he needed to do. Not for a trophy. Not for applause. But for something more important, truth. He looked down at the green scarf still tied around his wrist. He touched it gently. Then he walked slowly to the edge of the hall. Near the front row, a little boy stood. He wore a white belt. His uniform was too big for him. He looked a bit nervous. His eyes were wide. Statham noticed the boy. He stopped and turned to face him. The boy looked up, carefully. Then he said in a small voice, You defended your master." Statham looked at the boy kindly. His strong face became soft. He shook his head slowly. "No," Statham said gently. His voice was quiet, but everyone could hear. "I defended the people who never got clapped for. The people who got hurt, but didn't show it. The people who stayed strong so others could feel brave." The boy's eyes opened a little wider. He looked down at Statham's wrist and saw the green scarf. He stared at it for a moment. Statham saw where the boy was looking. He slowly untied the scarf. The old cloth came off easily. Statham knelt down so his eyes were level with the boy's. He moved slowly, like he had all the time in the world. "This scarf," Statham whispered, "was given to me by someone who knew that real courage doesn't need applause. Don't wear it to fight. Wear it to remember." The boy took the scarf with both hands. He held it carefully, like it was a treasure. His eyes showed he understood, even though he was young. People in the crowd watched. They didn't speak. They just felt something special was happening. Statham stood up slowly. He put a hand gently on the boy's shoulder. Then he stepped back. Behind the boy, his father placed a hand on the boy's back. He looked at Statham and nodded with quiet thanks. All the cameras that had been clicking earlier were now still. No one took pictures. No one made a sound. The silence was deep. A coach in the crowd, someone who taught fighting, nodded. He saw something more important than any technique. He saw a lesson about being human. Rafe, still sitting on the mat, saw everything. His body hurt, but what hurt more was the truth. He didn't just lose a fight. He had lost something inside. He now knew he had never really understood what fighting was for. Statham hadn't yelled or bragged. He had been calm. And that calm had broken Rafe's pride. Statham had walked away from the fight, but he left behind something stronger than a trophy. A legacy. Something that could not be seen, but could be felt. The crowd didn't cheer as Statham walked toward the hallway. They stepped aside and let him pass. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't waving. He just walked, slow and steady. He looked tired, but in a strong way, like someone who had done something important and now just wanted to rest. Outside the mat, Statham walked down a dim hallway. The lights were soft. The floor was quiet. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. He let out a deep breath. The hard part was over, but it had taken something out of him. From the shadows, a voice spoke. They'll teach this moment someday. Statham opened his eyes. A man stepped forward from the dark hallway. He was older. His face had lines from many years. Around his waist was a black belt. His eyes were kind. He looked at Statham with respect. Not the punches, the man said softly, but the quiet. That's what they'll teach. The stillness between the hits. The silence that says more than shouting. Statham nodded. He understood. They didn't need to say much more. The old man smiled and touched Statham's shoulder gently. Then he walked away, back into the shadows. Statham stayed there for a moment. He thought about what the man said. He remembered all the times he had fought, not for trophies, but for truths. Quiet truths. Then he walked again, toward the door that led outside. His jacket was on, covering his strong shoulders. Shoulders that had carried a lot. The night air outside was cool and soft. The stars were starting to shine. Back in the hall, Rafe finally looked up. The mat in front of him was empty. Statham was gone, but something had been left behind. Rafe didn't feel angry. He didn't feel proud. He felt clear. He understood now what had happened. He had not been beaten with fists. He had been beaten with truth. And it had changed him. He stood up slowly. He didn't pick up his black belt. It didn't mean the same anymore. He left it on the mat. He didn't care who saw him now. He didn't care if they judged him. He had learned something important, and it had hurt, but it had also made him better. The little boy watched Rafe leave. He still held Statham's scarf. He didn't smile, but he felt something in his heart. He understood a little more now. He knew that real heroes don't need clapping. They don't need big shows. They just need to be remembered. Statham walked farther away. His steps were soft. His figure became smaller and smaller until he was gone. But what he left behind stayed. Rafe walked out of the hall quietly. His back was straight. His eyes were different now. He knew he had a lot to learn. But this time, he would learn with a quiet heart. The crowd also left slowly. No one shouted. No one laughed. Everyone carried something with them. A quiet feeling that something big had happened, even though it didn't make a loud sound. They had seen a fight. But more than that, they had seen the power of silence. The power of kindness. The power of truth. And those things would stay with them for a long, long time. Enjoyed the story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I always love chatting with you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss the next wild ride. Thanks so much for watching.